how to use a planer. First, we're going to start by inspecting the unit. We're going to check the housing, make sure the headlight will work, make sure your elevation handle is going to work and rotate around, make sure that my depth gauge is operating properly. And I'm also going to check the cord to make sure no tears or frays. Now when I get ready to use this piece of equipment, first thing I'm going to do is my PPE is always have the safety glasses, but with these, they are extremely loud. You're going to want a set of headphones. And if you're going to use this thing for quite some time, depending on the material that you run, you're probably going to want a dust mask with it also. Unlike many of our tools, the second step in this thing is you have to check your wood for any metal. You were looking for nails, screws, any of those kind of things. And if they're there, you have to remove them before you run them through this tool, because these little blades will get chipped. And then once you put a chip or a dent in this blade, every time you cut something, it's going to leave a groove in the next piece of material that you cut. So that is by far the most important step with a planer, is to check your piece of wood to make sure it's good and clean. All right, I'm going to make sure that the head is unlocked because I can't adjust it without it. Now I'm going to adjust the height to match the wood, and what I'm going to use as the indicator, right here where it says removable gauge, there's a little piece of metal in there, if you'll feel under it, and it moves the depth gauge indicator. So I'm going to place it just barely under it, and I'm going to start lowering it till I see this the cut indicator actually move just a hair. Then I'm going to stop. See, I can make it move by touching that. That's my start point. I'm going to lock the head. Now I'm ready to plug it in. And then turn it on. When you operate this tool, it has a set of blades that are, but it also has two rollers, round rollers on the inside, and they actually will grab the wood and pull it through the machine. And sometimes they'll stick a little bit, depends on how much use they've had. And even at the first pass, you may not hear it actually take any wood off the top. We may have to lower it a couple times. And when you go to run this, it's going to run all the way through. And on top, it has a little arrow that says feed direction. You run the piece of material all the way through. You bring it back around. And then most times, I will actually flip it over and run the other side. Then I'll bring it back, unlock the head, make a half a turn, no more than a half a turn up here with the adjustment wheel, lock the head back down. Now, if you're using oak or hickory or something like that, we'll only do a quarter of a turn each time, because even though you're barely moving it, that blade is taking a lot of pressure to cut the material off of there. Adjust it back. I'm going to power on. I'm going to show you how to actually plane one. I'm just going to plane one edge for you. I'm going to flip it over, repeat on the other side. Unlock, half turn, lock, flip, repeat. And these blades of this are pretty fine. It'll actually leave a pretty fine edge on this, a pretty clean edge. So you can set the thickness on boards. We use it when we're trying to get several boards all the same thickness. If you're making a tabletop or cutting board, when you glue the boards together, they're going to be unlevel, and this will get them all the same thickness. This will cut up to about 12 inches wide. So that's about as wide as you can do it. Anything wider than that, you're going to have to use a sander of some type. All right, now that I've got it finished, I'm going to unplug it. And the biggest thing, I'm going to check over the housing and all that again, but the biggest thing on these is make sure they're clean, because they make an awful lot of dust and an awful lot of mess. Once you have it unplugged, you're going to want to raise the head and the motor assembly up enough where you can get some air up in there. And that's how to use a planer.